Metro City has been the heart of countless battles, a place where warriors rise from its streets to make their mark on the world. Among them are three fierce women whose paths began in the Final Fight series, but would eventually lead to Street Fighter. The cunning and charismatic Poison, the fiery detective Lucia Morgan, and the swift Bushinryu master Maki Genryu Sai. Their journeys weave through gang wars, personal rivalries, and world tournaments, each driven by their own convictions. These are their stories. Named after the glam metal band, Poison made her debut in Final Fight, the side-scrolling brawler set in Metro City. She originally appeared as one of the common enemies in the Mad Gear gang, alongside her palette swap Roxy. However, Poison instantly stood out thanks to her flashier design. Sorry, Roxy. Though she began as a background fighter in the Mad Gear gang, her character would go on to evolve into one of Capcom's most iconic figures. She would become playable in Capcom's 1999 3D arcade fighting game, Final Fight Revenge. Still living on the wrong side of the law, Poison will do whatever it takes to stay out of jail. She attempts to pin her crimes on Metro City's newest hero, Cody. But after he's arrested and imprisoned, she visits him, hinting that she may have developed feelings for him along the way. Poison was also planned to be included in Final Fight Streetwise, alongside Sodom, but both were cut from the game. She was also set to appear in the cancelled 3D fighter, Capcom Fighting All-Stars, dressed in her classic attire. Poison's journey into the Street Fighter franchise cannot be told without acknowledging the long-running discussions surrounding her gender identity, a subject that has shifted across regions, eras, and even official statements from Capcom. If you'd rather skip this part and dive straight into Poison's actual story and appearances in the Street Fighter series, feel free to jump ahead, where we explore her cameos and playable roles. Otherwise, let's continue and see how her identity and cultural impact would go on to shape Poison into one of Capcom's most unique and talked about characters. At the time of Poison's debut in Final Fight in 1989, Capcom USA worried players might find it distasteful to strike female characters, sparking changes to both Roxy's and Poison's sprites outside of Japan. In the book Game Over, author David Sheff recounts that when an American producer questioned the inclusion of Poison and Roxy, a Japanese designer dismissed the issue, stating that the character wasn't female. The eventual solution was to have both Poison and Roxy's sprites replaced with male punks Sid and Billy in international versions of the game. Later, concept art for Final Fight of both Poison and Roxy would be released and further complicate the history, with the Japanese term new half, a colloquial phrase for transgender women in Japan, written next to their designs. This terminology carried through into several official Japanese manuals of Final Fight. Fast forward 2 decades, and the ambiguity only deepened. In 2008, Street Fighter IV producer Yoshinori Ono clumsily remarked, "Let's set the record straight. In North America, Poison is officially a post-op transsexual. But in Japan, she simply tucks her business away in order to look like a girl." By 2011, Ono's tune had changed, stating that Capcom's official stance was to deliberately keep things vague. Initially, the intent for Final Fight was that she was just a regular woman. Over the next 20 years, there's been some changes, and Capcom's stance has and will continue to be that we don't have a stance, technically. It's supposed to be mysterious. We want both groups of fans to be satisfied in seeing the character the way they want to see her. In the same interview, a Capcom representative also addressed the controversy at the time around Street Fighter Cross Tekken, after early screenshots showed win quotes implying Poison was not a real woman. They clarified that these were removed during development, adding, "We're actually working very closely with GLAAD, a non-governmental media monitoring organization focused on LGBTQ+ advocacy and cultural change. It's been an education process for us, but we do want people to know that we're now working with them to make sure anything that might be offensive has been very tailored to not be." Final Fight's designers later weighed into the discussion too, in a 2014 Twitter exchange, Akira Nishitani, one of the original Final Fight designers, confirmed his involvement in the localization changes outside Japan, and also gave his opinion on the matter. So the truth is that I suggested we make her a new half. Unlike Japan, over there, if a place is making money, they'll charge for anything. The reason doesn't matter. I heard there's a saying in America that when it rains, lawyers make money, because people slip and fall in the rain, and they profit from the lawsuits. As for the public stuff, I think there are adult circumstances at play, but as an author, my personal take is, she's a woman. Isn't that good enough? Poison's designer Akira Akiman Yasuda then tweeted in 2015, Poison is a woman in Japan, but a new half overseas. Which coincides with his thoughts about the character in the Street Fighter Cross Tekken Artworks book, released a few years before. Capcom itself has leaned into the ambiguity. In 2016, their Shadowloo Combat Research Institute character guide cheekily summarized her as a mystery wrapped up in a beautiful package, showing the company's awareness of her cultural role while refusing to pin her down to one interpretation. Finally, outside the games, Udon Comics has taken a clear stance. In 2020, Director of Publishing Matt Moylan tweeted, Poison is trans in the Udon Comics. In the games, it has changed over the years, but currently, her status is officially a mystery. Taken together, these shifting narratives show that Poison's identity has been shaped as much by regional sensitivities and industry politics as by creator intent and fan speculation. Today, she stands as one of Capcom's most talked about and culturally relevant characters. A mystery that has, outside her sex appeal, allowed her to become a representative figure for many fans who see themselves in her story. With this history in mind, Poison's later inclusion into the Street Fighter franchise adds yet another layer to her legacy, transforming her from a background enemy into a central, playable fighter whose personality and flamboyance now define her place in the roster. Before she ever became playable in Street Fighter, Poison made cameo appearances in several of the alpha stages, often shown cheering from the sidelines in the backdrop of Metro City. These cameos served as early reminders of her Final Fight roots, standing alongside other characters from the franchise, and signaling that Capcom still saw her as part of the extended universe, even before giving her a more active role. The next step came with Street Fighter III Second Impact and Third Strike, where she appeared in Hugo's intro and outro. This role fit perfectly with her brash confidence, showing she wasn't just a gang member anymore, but someone who could command attention on the big stage. Poison's partnership with Hugo became a running theme, blending professional wrestling spectacle with her own flair for performance. In Hugo's Second Impact ending, she welcomes Gil into the Capcom Wrestling Association as Hugo's tag team partner, forming the team of Ragnarok winners. And in Hugo's Third Strike ending, the pair have recruited all the fighters that Hugo defeated into their huge wrestling army, something Ryu seems more than okay with. Poison's first playable appearance in a quote-unquote Street Fighter game came in Street Fighter Cross Tekken, where she and Hugo search for a mysterious object called Pandora together. Here, Capcom leaned fully into her larger-than-life persona, stylish, provocative, and unafraid to mock her opponents. In this game, Poison is established not just as Hugo's manager, but as his mouthpiece, strategist, and the brains of the operation. Assets from Street Fighter Cross Tekken would then be used in Ultra Street Fighter IV, where Poison made her true Street Fighter roster debut. Set before the events of the Street Fighter III series, Poison has fallen on hard times. Her attempts to create a dynamic, new wrestling federation aren't going as planned. Finding a flyer promoting the World Warrior Tournament being hosted by SIN, Poison sets out to change her fortune and recruit new talent from the top fighters from around the world. In her ending, she's managed to convince not just former Mad Gear members, Hugo and Rolento, but also Cody and Guy, to form a glam rock band a la Kiss. She even has Ken and Ryu performing Hadouken pyrotechnics on stage. Poison would then return later in Street Fighter V in 2019, returning to Metro City following a falling out with Hugo. She visits a reformed Roxy and Abigail, who now owns a scrap metal yard. She attempts to recruit him as a replacement for Hugo, but is scolded by Roxy, who notes how hard he has been working running the new business. Poison reflects on her actions, apologizes, and then leaves. Next, she attempts to recruit the new mayor of Metro City, Cody, who asks that she come back in a few years after his term as mayor ends. Local law enforcement arrives in the form of Lucia, who states that someone had filed a report that the city's mayor is being attacked by a thug. Cody simply waves it away, saying everything is fine, and then leaves. Lucia recognizes Poison and remembers that she and Hugo had gone on tour trying to make a wrestling organization. She can also see that Poison and Hugo have clearly had a falling out. Poison notes that there are just some things you can't control. Hugo is simply a blockhead, whose only ability is he can beat people up. His fate is always to be fighting. Lucia understands and notes that Cody seems to be the same way. Later, Poison is standing in the streets of the city when a large shadow looms over her. The shadow of Hugo. She tells him that she doesn't need someone who runs away just to crawl back to her. But she respects those who are willing to return to face a difficult situation. Giving Hugo a second chance, she warns him that she won't go easy on him. Through decades of evolution, from a palette-swapped gang member in Final Fight to a cunning, larger-than-life fighter in the Street Fighter universe, Poison has consistently embodied the chaotic energy of Metro City itself. Her journey has intertwined with heroes, villains, and anti-heroes alike. From Hugo's wrestling escapades to Cody's violent crusades, Poison always leaves her mark as both a provocateur and a strategist. Yet as much as Poison thrives in the spotlight, her encounters with Metro City's guardians hint at the fragile balance between freedom and responsibility. Enter Lucia, the city's steadfast protector, whose sense of duty and unyielding morality contrasts sharply with Poison's flamboyant unpredictability. Where Poison challenges rules and expectations, Lucia enforces them, setting the stage for a collision of ideals that will define the next chapter in Metro City's ongoing saga. Lucia made her debut in Final Fight 3 as a tough, streetwise detective with a taste for high kicks and justice. When a new gang called the Skull Cross Gang threatened to destabilize Metro City, Lucia sought out Mayor Mike Hagar's aid. Her fighting style in Final Fight 3 combined aggressive striking with acrobatic flair, perfectly reflecting her energetic and determined personality. Alongside the returning ninja Guy, Lucia, Hagar, and new rival Dean fought their way through the streets of Metro City to the Skull Cross Gang's base and took down its leader. Shocking. For years, she remained a cult favorite, known mostly to fans of the later 16-bit Final Fight entry, but in Season 4 of Street Fighter V, Lucia finally returned as part of the summer character update. Her new design gave her a modern cop's edge, with blue denim shorts, cap and shades, and a sharp no-nonsense attitude. Her in-game personality balances playful banter with relentless determination, often clashing with thugs, and even allies, who get in her way. In her story mode, Lucia's hearty cup noodle break is interrupted by the former mayor of Metro City, Mike Hagar. He's concerned that remnants of Mad Gear may be working with politicians opposed to the new mayor, Cody, and asks Lucia to investigate. She arrives at Abigail's scrap metal yard and immediately goes on the offensive, only to find that Abigail is now running a legitimate business. Roxy remarks that having cops like Lucia stop by is reassuring for customers, and both Roxy and Lucia tease Abigail, joking that his face is the reason anyone would feel unsafe. Satisfied that the scrapyard is above board, Lucia decides to update Mayor Cody, only to run into the knife-wielding fighter lurking in the Bay Area shadows. She notices Cody speaking with the ninja Zeku, who vanishes as soon as she approaches. After challenging him to a friendly fight, the two reminisce about their days fighting Mad Gear. Lucia warns Cody not to be careless now that he's in a position of power, noting that suspicious late-night meetings don't look good. Returning to the police station, she finds her cup noodles a casualty of neglect. A fittingly chaotic end to the day, though it still seems better than whatever it was she cooked here. Lucia's dedication to justice and her relentless pursuit of criminals demonstrate the heart and grit that define Metro City's defenders. Yet she is far from the only vigilant protector roaming the streets. Another formidable fighter, trained in the clandestine arts of the Bushinryu, fights criminals born from Metro City in her own way. Maki entered the series in Final Fight 2 as the younger sister of Guy's fiancée, Rena, and the daughter of the 37th Bushinryu master, Genryu Sai. When Mad Gear's remnants kidnap both Rena and their father as revenge for their defeat in the first game, Maki joins forces with Hagar and Carlos Miyamoto, who loves kicking butt, to rescue them. After meeting in Hong Kong, their journey takes them across Asia and Europe to confront Mad Gear, even facing Rolento, here translated to Rolent, before finally saving Maki's family, all while Guy is off training somewhere. It was your fiancé, Guy. Unlike Guy, who carries a quiet sense of discipline, Maki's personality is fiery and competitive. Her first appearance in the Street Fighter universe proper came in the portable version of Street Fighter Alpha 3. Armed with her trusty tonfa, Maki journeys out into the world to track down Guy, seeking to prove that she should be the one to become the next Grand Master of Bushinryu. Along the way, she meets Sakura, who takes her for a gangster due to the fact that Maki is carrying a weapon. Maki says that weapons are a perfect accessory for battle, and the pair fight. Afterwards, Sakura notes that her moves are the same as someone she fought before, Guy, and she points Maki in his direction. Fun fact, Maki appears in the manga series Sakura Gambaru, where the two clash, making their alpha rival battle an Easter egg of sorts. Maki finally catches up to Guy and says they must fight to decide who the true successor of Bushinryu really is. Guy states that beating her would mean nothing. It is to be expected. Though she fights well, their battle ends in a stalemate. Guy says there is no way he can lose while there is evil on the loose, and he has no time for these trivial things. Maki says that's a good excuse, and in that case, she will go and put an end to this evil, meaning the dictator Bison. But she states that when she is done, there is still one more fight Guy must have. Tracking down and clashing with Bison, the dictator underestimates her, believing her to be just a little girl. While she gloats about her victory, however, he blasts her with psycho power. Slowly. Just as he is about to land the killing blow, Guy intervenes, finishing the dictator off with his Bushin Muso Renka technique. Maki states that was too close, and begrudgingly admits that, this time at least, Guy was the better fighter. The next time they meet, however, they'll put this grievance to rest. She announces that the true successor to the Bushinryu throne is her. Though making it into Capcom vs SNK 2, Maki hasn't returned to a Street Fighter roster since Alpha 3 Max, only making it as a silhouette in Zeku's Street Fighter V story mode. She can also be seen in artwork from Street Fighter VI's World Tour mode at a festival with Sakura, watching Ryu, Dan, and Retsu carrying a Makoshi. But her place as one of the 3 most notable female Final Fight veterans ensures her legacy remains tied to both the streets of Metro City and the global martial arts stage. Metro City breeds survivors. Poison moves through it with the confidence of someone who's lived its chaos and carved her own path within it. She embodies resilience and reinvention, standing out as both a fighter and an entertainer, her whip cracking as sharply as her wit. Lucia, by contrast, stands as Metro City's moral compass. A dedicated officer, she fights not just with skill, but with conviction. Every kick and grapple is precise, every move guided by justice. Where Poison thrives in unpredictability, Lucia brings order, a beacon against the city's chaos. Maki comes from a different world entirely, outside the borders of Metro City, but still connected to it, thanks to Mad Gear, Guy, and Hagar. As a Bushinryu ninja, she carries the weight of her clan's legacy, but tempers that discipline with a tomboyish fire. Competitive and strong-willed, Her strikes reflect not only tradition, but also her stubborn determination to prove herself. Free women, free philosophies, survival, justice, and tradition. Their paths cross only by circumstance, but each reflects a distinct approach to the struggles they face. Poison's flamboyance, Lucia's righteousness, and Maki's fiery discipline define not just how they fight, but who they are. Poison, Lucia, and Maki, each a force of her own, yet all shaped by the trials of their worlds. Whether it's Poison's daring adaptability, Lucia's unwavering sense of justice, or Maki's fiery Bushinryu spirit, these women embody the heart of their respective battles. Their stories remind us that strength comes in many forms, and that every fighter carries a legacy worth remembering. None have yet made it into the roster of Street Fighter VI, though much of the game is set in Metro City. So I ask you, dear viewer, which of the three would you most like to see return in Street Fighter? If you love diving into the histories and philosophies of these awesome characters, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with fellow lore fans. There's much more to unpack, more rivalries to explore, and more hidden stories waiting to be discovered. As always, be excellent to yourselves and one another, and I'll see you soon.